Hey guys, Scott and Nate from PlayYourCourt.com. Today we're going to discuss which is better, the two-handed backhand or the one-handed backhand.
All right, guys, in this corner, we have the two-handed backhand, regarded as one of the fiercest weapons on the court. But we saw Andre, we see Novak dominating the stroke. It's a legit weapon. And in the other corner, we have the aesthetically pleasing.
It's basically just Roger Federer.
Smooth.
Let's be honest, it's Roger Federer.
Gasquet, Wawrinka.
Roger Federer.
Others.
Is really the argument.
Hidden, right? All right, so guys, we're going to compare these two strokes, the one-handed backhand and the two-handed backhand, because a lot of you out there are debating like what you're going to do.
And you should all know how much better the two-handed backhand is. So
he's a big advocate of the two-handed backhand. But I'll tell you a story, okay? And this will be quick. Don't turn off the video. I've messed with this recently, and I'll tell you why. So being on the court as a teaching pro, one of the things that is a prerequisite is that you are holding multiple tennis balls in your non-dominant hand. And the reason being is if I'm hitting in and a student makes a mistake, I want to quickly jump back into the situation and feed another ball.
And pockets just won't do.
Yeah, I mean, it's awkward. You're reaching in. If you're out there teaching, you're reaching in your pockets, you're not playing with a high-level player, that's awkward. All right, so because of this, I started to develop what felt like a pretty solid one-hander. I won't say good, it felt solid. But what I found is that I was able to swing a little freer, the footwork, different. I won't say better, but different.
More reach when you pull out wide, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, when I hit it well, oh man, it was like hitting a good golf ball, just off, right? But I grew up with a two-hander, all right? And so I had to like really weigh the options. I spend 8 hours a day hitting a one-hander, maybe 2 hours a day hitting a two-hander if I've got a collegiate level kid or I'm out hitting with Scott or a buddy or whatever. But the one-hander was getting a lot more use.
Scott or a buddy. Am I not a buddy?
Yeah, you know.
Scott, you know, or somebody I like.
Is that what I said?
It came off pretty weird, but hey, carry on. Now that you've hurt my feelings, keep talking to the internet.
Freudian slip, internet. My bad.
Hurtful. He's hurt my feelings.
All right, so let's dive into it, Scott. Let's kind of see what the tell of the tape is.
You should want to grab a buddy instead.
I meant like buddies.
Yeah, all right, let's dive in.
Bearded buddies. All right, so first, probably the most important, right, is the high ball.
For sure.
Right, like the high ball, and this is where you're going to really see the two-hander, I think, perform. But, let's debate it here. Let's talk a little bit about it.
It's going to be a quick debate.
All right, what do you have? What's with the two-hander?
I've never met an individual with a one-hander other than maybe Roger Federer that's comfortable up here.
Disagree. Continue.
It's much easier to generate power with the two-hander from up here.
Okay. Yeah, I'll agree with that. So the two-hander, when we're getting this high ball, we're obviously creating more leverage because we got the second hand, right? And this is going to be a lot more about coiling. On the two-handed backhand, you coil and uncoil much more than you do on the one-handed backhand. And let's just face it, two hands are going to be stronger than one. And this is the reason that not just a check mark goes in the two-handed box for the high ball, but a big check mark, because this is a huge difference. This is what we saw Roger really have to adjust to because of Rafa's high-kicking ball. All right, now going back to what you said about only Roger, like I tell you what the game changer is though, is that Wawrinka's grip, where he's a little bit further behind the grip, man, you want to talk about lacing the ball. It used to be that you could get more power off the two-handed backhand, especially off the high ball, but.
Well, it's because on the two-hander, your left hand, or for me as a right-handed player, the left hand or your top hand should be doing all that work. So this is more natural than this, right? So without that Wawrinka grip adjustment, it's just going to feel funky up here with a one-hander, and that's why the two-hander historically and in most cases has been so much stronger up top.
You got it. Yeah, but so like obviously Wawrinka, that grip is very advanced, but there are ways. I mean, Gasquet's got massive topspin, but man, the one-hander is just sexy. It is. Look, everybody wants a one-hander.
I'll show you sexy.
But I'm going to go with you. Put the check in the two-hander for high balls. All right, guys, in the next round, we are talking about the versatility between the two strokes. All right, and what we're really talking about is...
I'm afraid the one-hander might take this one.
I agree with you. And the versatility, what we're discussing, is the ability to transition forward, all right, and also to incorporate the slice. Both really important, whether it's offense or defense. And
we know the slice wins right away, right? Because if you've got a one-hander, your hand's up here on the throat. So all you're really going to do is just quick change, hit the slice backhand, right?
Yeah, so and that's where we need to focus here is the ready position. The ready position on the two-handed backhand makes the transition a whole lot more difficult and less versatile. So on a one-handed backhand, the hand's up here on the throat of the racket. So really quick grip change. All right, it's almost automatic as soon as you want to slice.
It's super easy. It's almost 100%. Instant default.
Yep. And then moving forward, it's really easy to kind of disguise it too if you want to work over from the top spin over to the slice. The two-hander are a little bit more complex because you're starting with your hands lower. Whether the ATP guys are more here, recreational athletes are more here. You just got a lot more to move up, and then you're having to struggle between options.
Sorry to interrupt, you cannot highlight this enough. Everybody I coach that's below maybe the equivalent of a Division I top college tennis player, make sure if you have a two-handed backhand, your hands are together. I see a lot of us try to copy players we see on tour with that hand up here, and then there's just not enough time. Our timing isn't strong enough to slide down, get the racket back, find the timing. If you're having a hard time with your backhand and you're copying this move on your two-hander, that's probably the issue. So really, unless you're playing at a very high level, please, on your two-handed backhand, keep your hands together in your ready position. Sorry, Karen.
So if you're wrestling with the one-hander and two-hander and slice is a big part of your game, might lean towards the one-hander here. Moving to the net, if you're a net rusher, might lean towards the one-hander.
This just explains everything. My slice backhand's awful, my backhand volley's awful, but I have a fantastic two-handed ground stroke, backhand ground stroke.
Debatable. All right, guys, we are tied up 1-1. Up next, we are talking about the return of serve. All right. What do you think here? What is your red line?
Two-hander all day, let's go.
Yeah, I'm with you here as well. All right, so the two-handed backhand on the return of serve is going to get the check mark here.
Why? A lot of the same reasons, right? You're going to get a lot, like on the kick serve, you're going to get a lot of high backhands. It takes way less time to quickly turn with the two-hander.
Yeah.
It's just more mobile, I feel like.
I'd say the return of serve is maybe the biggest component that's edging the two-hander out over the one-hander. For me personally, I told you earlier, like, considered making the change. I enjoy hitting the one-hander, but man, the return of serve made me change my mind really quick. My better return is actually my two-handed backhand. It's compact, right? Just working through the hips and shoulders.
You switch to that one-hander, and all of a sudden you're chipping everything.
I was chipping everything.
I see this. Yeah. This is not exclusive to Nate. I mean, I see this all different types of players. Teaching pros even that are getting in the habit like Nate was of hitting one-handers, all of a sudden when they're waiting to return serve, because it's so easy to switch to that slice, they're defaulting to that slice when they should be just ripping through it. So I love the two-handed backhand on the return of serve because I think it actually tees you up to attack when you should.
And let's talk about, like, it's the difference between singles and doubles too. In singles, you can absolutely get away with chipping. Right? Chip the return, neutralize it, keep it deep, keep it short, whatever you're doing.
Cross court.
Yeah, and it's like you can do so in doubles a little bit, but it's if you're trying to chip cross court, you've got somebody poaching over and over again. So you've got to really have the ability to chip lob and then work the cross court, maybe little short angles. It's just tougher to do. You're creating a whole new aspect of the game because you're not coming over the ball. Whereas the two-hander, it's almost as good, if not as good, as the one-hander, where you're able to rip cross court and isolate the person in the back court. You're not worried about poaching so much in doubles. And in singles, we have the return +1, where you can absolutely be offensive. And here, the two-hander gets the check.
Oh yeah, absolutely a check mark for the two-hander here. So two-hander's up 2-1, my man. But now we got to talk about moving to the ball, which probably
this is debatable. All right, this is debatable.
Depends how good your open stance two-handed backhand is, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm going to lean on the one-hander here. All right, and the one-hander, because the ability to cross-step, to step across with the dominant foot and hit the ball, you're covering less court on the one-hander. Sometimes it seems like you're...
Don't worry, we're going to show you in a second.
Yeah, it may seem like it's more complicated, but it's actually not. You've got to get your entire body behind the ball on the two-hander in order to coil. Because remember what we talked about the two-hander is that you have to have the ability to get the shoulders and the hips working together. So if the footwork, if you're not behind the ball, this becomes really difficult. But you had mentioned the open stance backhand. That's what makes it debatable.
It's tough. I really only know a few people in the world that have a two-handed open stance backhand I feel good about. One of them's name is Serena Williams. So it's a hard shot to hit. It's a really hard shot to time with your footwork and hit a ball that you're confident in. Maybe you can pull it off, but it's typically not going to be as strong as if you stepped in. So most of our coaching for two-handers is going to center around you taking the extra step, getting behind the ball, trying to square those hips and shoulders up.
And for you really advanced guys, yes, our collegiate students are working with switch stance. This is essentially where from when they're hitting, they're working around and getting their feet around. That's super high level too. that is an equalizer on the movement or on the two-hander. But this video is for a wide spectrum. This isn't for the higher end 5.0 plus, where we're talking about collegiate level players, etc. This is a little wider range. So here, I think the one-handed backhand
definitely takes it, unfortunately.
And the last little tidbit, the ability of the one-hander to work through feet getting stuck, where you can kind of block through, you can flake to kind of defend the ball. Really tough to do on a two-hander.
For sure. All right, guys, tied up 2-2. I really want my two-handed backhand to win here. We've got one more category that I think it might edge the one-hander out in, which is timing.
Yeah, timing. So what are we talking about? Contact, right? Like we're not talking like the timing, tempo, rhythm. We're not talking about those intangibles because that's up to the individual player. We're talking about when we ill-time the ball, when we hit off center.
What's the margin for error at contact?
Well said, yeah. So
not much with the one-hander.
Two-hander, let's go! Yeah, so here's the idea, guys, is with the two-hander, you can afford to be a little bit late, all right, even maybe a little bit early. Because of the two hands, you have more plow. You've got more stability and balance working through that ball. And it's a little bit like the forehand. We get enough velocity through the forehand. We can be a little bit late and still pull that ball off with the rest of the mechanics being proper.
Think about the logistics of this too. If you have a two-handed backhand, your top hand should be doing all of the swinging. It effectively functions is for me, I'm right-handed, a left-handed forehand with my bottom hand on there for stability. So we're basically recreating all the benefits that we get of timing on the forehand side with the two-hander.
Well, and
whereas the one-hander, not so much.
What did your first coach tell you? The reason we have two hands, left hand power, right? Dominant hand, stability.
That's right.
Right? So it's going to be able to work through off-time balls a little better.
So there you have it. Two hands better than one.
So the one-hander, I will throw this. So
I guess we're not done yet. Sorry.
The one-hander, the contact has to be better because the lack of stability. With that being said, though, that's part of the attraction to it. Like people that are hitting like really solid one-handers, the contact, it forces you to keep that ball out in front, right? Really, really hitting with a solid swing, with a fluid contact to hit the ball correctly. Because if it's off, it's out. It's
also one of the main reasons us as coaches don't let you mess with a one-hander until you're playing at a high skill and have mastered the two-hander first, right? We don't coach a lot of beginners to start with one-handers for that exact reason. The contact is so much
natural,
harder.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's some kids that come out and they're naturally dominant off the one-hander. It's automatic. But like, yes, adults that are starting a little bit later in life, typically we introduce the two-hander. The one-handers usually brought in if they just have a knack for it, or if they're big fellas like Scotty here that just can't necessarily get around on the ball. You still have a two-hander though.
Oh yeah.
But all right, guys. So that does mean the two-hander wins. We are in consensus. I think.
Wait, what about power?
Power.
We talked about everything but power. What about power? Two-hander wins again, right?
No, we discussed this, and so really, I don't think it's fair to give either one a winner. Ordinarily, we would have said the two-hander. But I
think it's fair to give the two-hander the win.
The one-hander now has gotten so big. I mean, you're looking at absolutely screaming winners. Winners up in the 90-mile-per-hour range for Fed and some of these guys. And important to note, the second most recorded RPMs on the tour right now in the ATP is a one-handed backhand. So number one's obvious, right? One's Rafa.
Right.
Dude's RPMs are through the roof. Number 2 RPMs on the tour, Gasquet's backhand.
Really?
Massive, massive. I think Jack Sock has
something
started to
new every day.
that, but Jack Sock ain't doing a whole lot these days. So, yeah, Gasquet. So it's hard to quantify, right? I would say the bulk of power, the bulk of players are finding more power in the two-hander, but we're going to leave that one be, all right? So, yes, if Scott and I, we're in agreement, believe it or not. Two-handers, I think, is the preferred stroke. Just primarily off that return of serve and handling the high ball. But if you have a one-hander, Awesome. I wish I'd started with a one-hander because they're so cool looking.
They are cool looking. And guys, again, this is just a pros cons list. We're not seeing if you have a great one-hander, switch to a two-hander. We're just pointing things out where if you're undecided between the two, in our personal opinions, we would probably lean towards a two-hander for the reasons discussed. As always, guys, we just want to help you improve your game. Obviously, if you're a brand new tennis player, you're not weighing the benefits of one-hander versus two-hander. You need much different instruction. And if you're a high-level player, you're not wavering either. So do us a favor, click the button of the link below, answer some questions for Nate and I about your specific skill level, jump inside the community. We'll send you custom video coaching every week based on the things that you've got going on with your specific game, and we'll even pair you with local players at your same skill level for practice and for matches. Just click the button or the link below and we'll do the rest.